be going over how to use conditional formatting within Excel. So today we'll be covering what conditional formatting is, how and when to use it to its full potential, and then running through a quick example of conditional formatting. And today I'm going to be showing you all of this conditional formatting within one of our multifamily development models. So before we dive in, just a quick high-level overview on what exactly conditional formatting is. Conditional formatting is a feature within Excel that allows you to apply specific formatting to cells that meet specific criteria. Usually, we use conditional formatting to call attention to certain cells and emphasize their values or results. So whether these values are investment returns that are above or below a certain threshold, like in a waterfall distribution calculation, or inventory values below minimum levels, conditional formatting can help organize large data sets into a more comprehensible format. Now, there are multiple ways to conditionally format a cell, including custom conditional formatting, but let's just take a look at the preset formats that Excel gives us just to get a general idea of what we're working with. So first, conditional formatting is usually in the top right middle of your home ribbon. And the first conditional format we have is highlight cells rules. And this is exactly what it sounds like. It highlights a cell if it meets a certain criteria. And we can see some of these criteria to the right. So if it's greater than, less than, between, equal to a certain value, it'll highlight. Or you can even do a text that contains, or if you find duplicate values in your data sets, you can also highlight those. Moving on, we have top-bottom rules, which organize the top and bottom ranges of data based on certain conditions that, again, we can see to the right. So whether you want to highlight the top 10%, bottom 10%, bottom 10 items, items above or below average. And this would be helpful in valuing multiple projects. Maybe you want to see all of the projects IRRs, and maybe you only want to focus on the top so you can really focus on those, or maybe you want to see the bottom 10% of these returns so you can cut those out. Now, moving on, we have data bars and color scales, and these each do essentially the same thing as each other, just through different methods. Data bars overlays a bar whose length represents the value of the cell compared to other values of cells in the formatting range. So the longer the bar, the higher the value of the cell compared to those other cells in that range. And then with color scales, it does essentially the same thing, except the color represents the value. We see color scales a lot in sensitivity tables for IRR that allow us to visualize the changes in IRR based on changing factors. And then finally, we have icon sets, which result in indicators or icons that can represent a variety of results depending on the scenario you're referencing. So now that we know generally what we're working with, let's dive into an example to see it in practice. So here we have our multifamily development model, and we're looking at our error check tab. Now we can see that we have a lot of check marks, so we know that conditional formatting is probably in play. And when we go conditional formatting and manage rules, go the entire sheet, we can see the icon set conditional formattings. And we can see that it returns a check mark or a red X. And it produces a check mark if the value is 0, and it predicts a red X if the value is not 0. So diving deeper into this formula for effective gross income from monthly cash flows, we can see that we're doing our model outputs in X9 minus our monthly cash flow in F41. So what this really is saying is we just want to check to make sure that the value here in F41, the effective gross income, is the same that we are illustrating in our model output. So this model outputs X9, and we can see that our X9 here is that effective gross income of 8.631 million, and that is the same as it was over here, that 8.631 million. So when we go to our error check, that minus that is 0, so it produces a green check mark, and that is the same with the annual cash flows and so on and so forth. So we are just confirming that we are presenting the same accurate data that we produced in the monthly cash flow into our model outputs to ensure accuracy throughout the entire model. So if you have any questions on conditional formatting, please feel free to reach out to me. Thanks for watching and have a great day.